So all that anybody knows about Uganda is the LRA, the Lord's Resistance Army, and Joseph Coyne, who most people know as Joseph Kony.
Oh, it's Coyne.
Coyne, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So anytime you think about atrocities in Uganda, you think Joseph Kony.
Yeah.
But the truth is, Joseph Kony committed atrocities himself.
Yes.
And the Ugandan military, under the President Yoweri Museveni, who's been in power since '86, he's been in power for almost 33 years.
3 decades.
Yeah, over 3 decades. He committed major atrocities in northern Uganda. Villages, man, just wiped out with, basically attrition, like starving the people.
Yeah.
There was massacres by the military also, but there was really they were starving the people.
Wow.
So a lot of people don't know it, and that's why the film is important. A Brilliant Genocide. It's so smart the way it was done. It is brilliant because you can't tell that it was a genocide because they made it happen. It's not really in the open.
Yeah.
You're not going out there like in Rwanda where people were being massacred with machetes.
Yeah. There's not a lot of blood being spilled on the street. Even though those happen in the villages. But the major, man, that was I had no idea, and I was blown away because the video was packed with so much details and information, and plus the event, the fact that they had you and the Professor Milton and the other people over there, it's like a great combination.
Yeah, Helen Epstein and Judy River, both of them, the authors.
Yeah,
Helen is also a professor, and Judy River's a journalist. So
she's a journalist from Canada, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully, because I think she probably speaks French.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah,
she does.
Would be great to have it.
I think you should. You should do the podcast with her.
Because what is happening in especially my community because of a lot of our people, they French speaking. Some of the information they're not getting it quite
right. I wish, man, I would love to do it in French, but it would take twice as much time.
No,
because I have to do my thinking in a different language and translate.
A lot of people really it's one of the most listened episode that we had. So
the one that we did,
the one on Rwanda, because anytime people would tell me because we have to be honest. Kagame has a great PR system.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Do you see? The film is called A Brilliant Genocide.
Yeah,
I would say Kagame is brilliant at PR. He spends a lot of money on PR, on promoting his image.
Yeah.
He wants to keep a perfect image. That's his biggest struggle.
Yeah.
If he was the type that was really good at PR, but didn't try to maintain a perfect image, he'd probably get away with all these crimes because he also committed a brilliant genocide.
Yeah.
It wasn't so brilliant. The reason why he's getting away with it right now is because he's still a darling of Western countries. And the countries love him. The donor nations love him. The US backs him. The UK backs him. Now he's in good graces with France. But the day that he loses the support, and it's slowly coming.
Yeah.
His narrative is getting shattered. Day by day, the truth is slowly coming out.
It's going to come down crashing because I saw you posted few people that he had to free because of external pressure.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. It's good. Hopefully they could still run against him, even though I don't know if they're going to win. But I think it's going to shake things up. At least he would understand that. People would, anytime they'll get, any chance they get, they will kick him out. So it would make him understand that, and he will calm down and some of the, atrocity.
Yeah. So one of the things that I should have said that I didn't say. I should have said and didn't say in that event because it just escaped me.
Yeah.
And even the day before, when I was on Straight Talk Africa, the show, Rwanda is a country it does not have rule of law. It has rule by law, which is what dictators do. It's like it's the playbook, the classic playbook by dictators. They take these laws, they make laws to protect themselves and to protect their dictatorship. So you do whatever little thing that you do, it comes back to haunt you, and they make it look legal. In the same way that, when slavery happened, it was legal to do that because they had laws to allow to do that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so that's what he has. So one of the ladies that was freed because of external pressure, according to Rwandan laws, she couldn't run again because she served so much time. She was convicted for, when you serve a certain amount of months, jail time, then you cannot run for presidency. The second lady, that's Victoire Ingabire. Diane Guigara, she might be able to run because she was cleared of her charges. And, twice. This is 2 times when Kagame's PR has really, really failed. Because, when he released Victoire, he was expecting that people would just jump and say, oh, Kagame is such a great, forgiving person, and he let her out. But it was quickly, we were able to demonstrate, hey, this guy, he's under external pressure, that's why he did it. So that one flopped. Then they dropped the charges against Diane. And the thing they don't get is, you should have never arrested these 2 ladies to begin with. They should have never served any time to begin with. So when he released Diane, then they started claiming that the judicial system in Rwanda works and is independent. And obviously that's also not true. But that's what's happening. And I should have mentioned for sure that it's rule by law, not rule of law.
I think also what I think was great about some of the interventions, especially like when they ask you to tell your story of about being a survivor of the genocide survivor, you make sure people understood that there were atrocity, like people committed atrocity, but that don't make all African savages.
Oh yeah, I think that's important.
Yeah,
because you have people like I said, look the things Museveni has done, what Joseph Kony has done, what Kagame has done, what Kabila has done, what Compaore has done, Hissène Habré, and Idris Deby and Meles Zenawi and all of these African either dictators or warlords. They've committed atrocities because they are extremists. They are so power hungry. They will do anything to either take power and to maintain themselves in power. But that doesn't represent us. Most Africans are collateral damage. They just happen to be innocent bystanders and get killed in the crossfire.
It's amazing how like yesterday. I mean, the day of the event, Milton, the Professor Milton was explaining how Museveni had. No, I'm not sure if it was him or the other professor.
Helen Epstein.
Yeah, I'm not sure about her name, but she was giving details how Museveni was involved in like attacks in like Sudan and all the neighboring countries.
That's true.
And that's how they usually use, like those puppets, right? Like even, in Burkina Compaore, like, we've heard stories that, like he was involved in a lot of countries.
Liberia, Sierra Leone,
even Ivory Coast.
Ivory Coast.
Like it's just these people, they're not only a danger to their own people, but it's a danger to the world. Because if what's funny is, I feel like the West, I'm pretty sure they know that these people, they're only serving them because they can't do anything against them. Because at some point, if they feel like if they have to stay in power, they have to attack whoever they have to attack, they would do it because they're just power hungry. But they still support them, knowing that they're not only going to destroy their own kind, but they're going to destroy like other countries, whatever they could destroy. It's like
Yeah, exactly. These puppets of Western powers, they will do anything for their masters.
Yeah,
and that's why you have this classic example, Museveni. The only neighboring country that he hasn't really ventured into is Tanzania. Tanzania is a very powerful country. When you look at the rest of the countries that surround Uganda, because Uganda is landlocked, it doesn't touch the ocean.
Yeah, just like Burkina.
Yeah, and Rwanda's that way too. Burundi, Zimbabwe, Zambia, a few countries like that. Museveni has been involved in South Sudan, Sudan, and then South Sudan. Even now, today, the atrocities and the war taking place in Sudan, in South Sudan. Sorry, he's involved. His troops are involved. And people are running away from South Sudan to Uganda, and he's acting like, like he's taking care of refugees. I mean, and then there are people who say, well, that's so great. They're receiving refugees and everything. You don't really have a choice. When refugees run, they just go to wherever the gunshots, are they no longer can hear those. That's where they go.
They run away from
they shoot. But where we're sitting right now, if somebody shoots into this house, we're running, and it's not gonna matter what direction. We're just gonna run.
So you can't hear those shots.
Yep. So then he supported basically the RP of Kagame and the other soldiers, especially the leaders of the rebellion in Rwanda. They were part of the Ugandan military. When Kagame came here in the U.S. in 1990 to train at Fort Leavenworth, he came as a Ugandan citizen. He was part of the Ugandan military. He was the chief intelligence of the Ugandan military. And then he came here, then converted, went into, he became the rebel leader. And, they won in Rwanda and then invaded the Congo, him and Museveni. That's 3 countries that Museveni been involved in. South Sudan, Rwanda, Congo. With Kenya, which is another neighboring country, they haven't had like major war or anything like that, but Museveni has always been belligerent in Kenya. I remember, I think it was 2009 when I was in Kenya. There was a dispute between Uganda and Kenya, and basically Museveni had sent his troops to take over, I think it was a lake, if I remember correctly. It was back in 2009. I wasn't there for long. But then when the Kenyans started saying, hey, look, man, you're crossing, you're overstepping and everything, he said, oh, you know what? Fine. The water belongs to Kenya, but the fish belongs to Uganda. That's the type of stuff that Museveni does. So he's always been belligerent with with Kenya also. But yeah, it's true. It's really true. But nobody ever talks about him.
No, and the pictures that were showing at the event, he has pictures with almost every president
of the
U.S.
The last 5, I think. I think he has one with Trump.
I haven't.
Not
I haven't
not
seen
100% sure about Trump, but he definitely has with Obama.
Not just with Obama. He has one with his wife.
Yep.
With Obama
Mm-hmm.
and
And
Obama's wife.
Yep.
Right.
And he got Bush.
Mm-hmm.
And he got Clinton. Clinton is a big fan of both Museveni and Kagame, especially Kagame. But yeah, so you got Obama, you got Bush, you got Clinton, you got the older Bush, and Reagan.
Wow.
Yeah, because Museveni has been around. He's been president since '86. It's ridiculous.
Ain't that funny? Like, you've been president for a long time, and all these, like back home, there was all these little kids that come and they grow up to become president, and they come and they boss you around. Right. Like, you gotta go do this, and like you run around and you go do it, and you still call yourself president.
Yeah, like people who are born.
Yeah.
They've already they've already gone through school, graduated. Yeah. If they went to university, they've graduated. A lot of them have gotten married. Yeah. And a lot of them have kids already. So it's like basically people who could be, I guess they could probably be his grandkids.
Yeah. Of course.
This guy is over 75 years old. Wow. And, I know the thing that a lot of people saw about Uganda last year was, that fight in Parliament when there was
slapping.
They were throwing microphones and,
Someone was explaining that it was just it was a setup.
No. There was a law that Uganda was trying to pass in Parliament. Oh. Actually, I think it was maybe earlier this year. So there was a group that was saying, don't touch it. It was the age limit. Because Museveni is going to be over 75 years old the next time they have an election. And the Constitution said, if you're over 75, you can't run. And so the group in the red, like the red hats and the various things, they had a slogan, say Togi Kwatako, don't touch it. Okay. And basically don't touch that law. Yeah. Museveni wanted it passed. He wanted to change. He brought his security people into Parliament, and they beat those people in Parliament. Wow. And one woman, she was so injured, I think they hurt her spine. Ooh. So, and then finally, I don't remember exactly how it went down, but some people were absent when they voted for it. And he won. And so he got it removed. Just like all these other dictators, like Kagame, 2 years ago, he changed the constitution in Rwanda. So he had people pretending to ask him to stay.
Same like that's the same scenario they all do. Yeah. Komrade did the same thing too, and he tried to change it. That's what was his downfall.
I'm so glad that was the result.
There was one person who was saying, actually, Maurice actually told us when we were interviewing Maurice that they have I think it's a conference or an event in West Africa that they sent some of their guys there to network. And he was explaining how important it was to to network with those people, those groups in the continent, those activists, and
Oh yeah, it's important.
And I think it was good that they're able to do it because here you doing a great fight, but unless there is a relationship between
it has to be on the ground. Yeah, it has to be both outside and inside. Because you can do all of the fighting outside. You can win everything outside. Yeah. But if there's nothing happening on the inside, you're not gonna have a result. Yeah. And for me, that's why it's important for us to connect with the people on the continent, to have a network that is global and make it a global fight. Yeah. So that when we finally get to determine our own destiny, when the Africans make decisions for ourselves, we who are outside in the Western countries can keep the Western countries at bay.
Yeah.
And the people on the continent can, do their thing without, somebody hovering over them and trying to make those decisions for them.
Yeah, but here's my concerns, like I've seen cases where, like the youth went on the street, they overthrew the government, but the follow-up wasn't what we had hoped.
Yeah.
Like
that happens a lot.
Like even in the case of Burkina, some people might like what is happening right now, but I don't, because I feel like we're still signing the same type of deals, like
it's the same thing that also happened in Egypt.
Okay.
So basically, Egypt, the people staged a revolution. They removed the dictator, Hosni Mubarak. Thankfully, they arrested him and tried him. And then they had an election. A government was elected, which was the Muslim Brotherhood. And the West didn't like that government, so they overthrew them. They sponsored a coup against the elected government. And that happens a lot. But I think there's something happening in West Africa that may be really helpful. The fight against France-Afrique and the fight against France-CFA.
Yeah.
I think that's very fundamental.
Yeah.
Kind of...
point has been updated. Please check it on the map.
Just getting rid of that that toxic relationship
with France.
With France. France and other Western imperial masters. We need to get to the point where we're dealing instead of them just dictating.
Yeah. You see, like the reason why, why I ask you this is, I feel like when there's a revolution, or when we removing a dictator, I feel like there's a need for a better education on the aftermath of things.
Yep.
Even like talking about the cipher, we gotta get it out. But I wonder if people are really prepared for the change. Because when you look at a country like Sudan today, they print their own money. They have their own currency and they print it in Sudan, not in Europe or whatever. But right now there's so much inflation going on because of course they will print the money and some will print extra money for themselves. Like I've lived in Ghana for a couple of years, and maybe I'm wrong, but in my observation, each time there was an election, there was a new bill being created, a new notes. Like I've seen creation of like the 10,000 bill and the 20,000 bill, and I do believe that they created this so that they could like create extra and stock it, so that when they're doing the next elections,
they can throw it out, right
so
people with it.
It's like I feel like there's an education that needs to happen, with the revolutionaries or the activists in terms of the aftermath of like overthrowing a government and not let the same people get back in.
Yeah, and it needs to be like where the people understand. It's basically like getting to the masses.
Yeah.
Helping them understand that we are rejecting dictatorship and everything that looks like it.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So just because basically changing a dictator for their opponent is not enough.
Yeah.
Even if it's not their opponent, or if it is their opponent, that's not enough, because what we want is real change in institutions where whoever's in power has checks and balances. You know, if things like fraudulent printing of money, like you're saying, and all of these other things that are happening, that the institutions themselves can actually address it. Because basically what happens with the dictators, and usually what happens with the people that replace them, the people who replace them are people who have long had the ambitions of just being in the seat of the dictator. They want that, and they get in and they abuse it and things like that. I mean, I think of people like, for example, like Liberia, right? Charles Taylor was horrible. Samuel Doe was horrible. The people before them were horrible. Then after the change came Johnson Sirleaf, right? And then she wasn't that much better. The great thing was there was not a lot of fighting. But there was a lot of corruption. There was a lot of corruption around, her sons. She had those long time ambitions of being the president, because it emerged in the 2000s that she had paid money, like tens of thousands of dollars. I saw one paper that said it was like 100,000 that she paid to Charles Taylor, or gave to Charles Taylor during his war. So she contributed to the killing of Liberians.
Oh, that didn't come out.
Because she wanted to be president.
Oh.
And Charles Taylor, he took the money, but he didn't give her the seat.
Okay.
And so she basically had those long ambitions. And she came in, and not much is, in terms of like things changing for the people.
Also,
not a lot happened.
I think she's from those trainings of IMF and those long trainings. So I feel like
all the ones that are really harmful to Africa. The IMF and the World Bank, and
I feel like if someone is from those organizations,
they're really bad for Africa.
So, and I'm seeing this in Ivory Coast, right? The president,
Alassane Ouattara,
they so-called building the country, but I feel like in Africa we're chasing a ghost, we're trying to compete, or we're chasing the wrong things. Like, it's not about building fancy bridges in the city.
That's nonsense.
Like people like in Burkina, when I went in 2015, I've seen we had these bridges that we actually really don't need. What we need is better roads.
Right.
Because when you get on the bridge, you go down, the bridge is empty. As soon as you go down, it's packed with traffic because the roads are narrow. And the other roads is only dirt road. So it's too much dust. So no one is trying to take that. Everybody's trying to take the one with tar. So everybody's packed on that. So if you go and make the roads better in like on the inside the city, it's better than building fancy bridges or buildings that we don't really need.
Yeah, the priorities are misplaced.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's where sometimes when people talk about, the way Rwanda looks right now, Kigali, that's just Kigali, by the way. Rwanda's not Kigali. Kigali is nice. It's clean.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
I don't know if I still have these pictures, right? So Rwanda is I think they were voted the cleanest city, Kigali in Africa.
Yeah, right? That's not surprising. And that Rwanda's generally has been that way too. This is even before the genocide. Rwanda was a clean place. They had this practice, which they still talk about now. Kagame makes it seem like he's the one that started it, but there is something called umuganda, which is public works. When we were kids, we used to do that on Saturdays. Like you go clean up, clean up the city, clean up the neighborhood, all of that. People did they did that at work, at school, everywhere. They still do that. So in terms of cleanliness, Rwanda's always been very, very clean. In terms of infrastructure in the region, in comparison to the surrounding countries, Rwanda has always been a little bit ahead of everybody. Like even in the 80s and early 90s before the genocide, people would cross over from Congo or Uganda or Burundi or Tanzania, the ones who were close enough, for their telecommunication needs and travel and even like going out of the country, the airport and everything. And it's still the same airport, by the way.
People were transiting
and the airport is still the same.
It hasn't changed.
Right. And that's the first thing people see when they get to Kigali.
Wow.
A lot of things,
I had pictures of, articles back when Komrade was in power with his clique. Ouagadougou was the cleanest city back then. So, like, they put the old ladies or women outside in the street, like, early in the morning, and they would clean up. They don't pay them that good. So, it's all a front. The place looks clean. But that's just a front.
Yeah.
And we could see it today. That's why he got kicked out. So,
Guess what? Even in Rwanda, there's a book called Bad News, The Last Journalist in a Dictatorship. It was written by a British journalist named Anjan Sundaram. Anjan Sundaram went there to train journalists. And in the end, a lot of everybody either became like a government mouthpiece, or they were persecuted, and some of them jailed, some of them went crazy, and some of them went into exile. I can't remember if anyone had been killed of the people that he trained. So he wrote about it, and he said, one of the journalists one of his students told him, hey, look at these streets, right? Do you see anybody? The people don't even use the streets. The Rwandan people don't walk on those streets because those are like showpieces. And so you bring the Europeans and the Americans and the outsiders and the tourists, and the other Africans from other countries, and you just parade them in those streets, and they're like, man, this is so clean. This is clean.
That's crazy. I wanted to ask you about recently. I don't know if you probably heard the professor from Temple, Mark Lamont.
Hill.
Right?
Yeah.
He had this backlash about the fact that he said that phrase "from the river to the sea." What's your thought about it?
I mean, I think any reasonable person can see that it can be done. There is nothing that should stop the peace in Palestine and Israel and Palestine conflict. That's a preventable and stoppable conflict. Any reasonable person can see that there is no way you can bring peace to that area without a free Palestine state. And to me, it's the right thing to do. The Palestinian people should have a free state. It should not be occupied. And so, him not only he got fired, to get fired for saying something. I've seen people on CNN. I've seen people on CNN when there is killings of black people in basically all of America by the police, blaming the person that got killed, including kids like Tamir Rice, 12-year-old Tamir Rice, basically acting like, hey, a cop should have, free reign to kill, right? They don't get fired.
Yeah,
they're there. He wasn't calling for violence against anybody.
Yeah.
He was not supporting, he was not saying anything that is supporting terrorism.
Yeah, it was not
nothing
inciting to a violence.
Yeah, and he got fired. That makes zero sense, and he should have never got fired for it. And I hope they come back to their senses and give him his job back.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But
well, you never know.
What's funny about this is I was watching a video. I haven't been to Palestine yet, but hopefully I'll go there soon. I was watching a video, and they actually have a wall keeping them.
Yeah, they do.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you know that that's the exact thing they did to the Jews? To the
I mean,
like back in
the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Germany.
They're basically using what was done to them to do to Palestine. Like they will keep them in the area,
basically concentrated. Yeah.
Like, and they had a wall. I went to a museum, and when I saw it, I was like, wow. So basically, hurt people.
Yeah. Yeah. So it happens.
But no one is studying that. Like they only studying because what they went through and what they're doing is exactly the same thing.
The victim becoming the victimizer.
Yeah, and it's the same thing as Kony. The guy from Uganda.
Yeah,
because he was a victim. Now he became
the victimizer.
The victimizer.
Kagame the same way.
Yeah. So, but whoever says anything, they jump on the person.
Yeah, what's funny too, and what's crazy is I have a Jewish friend that told me, there is a saying in the community that says, you have two Jews, you have three opinions.
Okay.
Basically, like they disagree so much.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's not even the whole Jewish community that supports the policies, the Israel-Palestine policies. But it's true that, when you say something that's favorable to Palestine, there's so many people, powerful people who come down and come hard.
Yeah.
And that's the ones that are referred to as a Zionists. They come really hard, to try to crush the person. But I think that is something that could work. That it's worked so far, but in this age of technology and social media, it's gonna be harder and harder to do it the way it's always been done.
But do you realize that they're doing just like how dictators are doing?
Yeah, it's full blown dictatorship to basically like punish somebody for having an opinion.
Yeah,
you can't do that. That's nonsense. In America, especially in a country where you're supposed to have, freedom of speech is like, Amendment 1 in the Constitution. Yeah. It makes no sense to punish somebody for having an opinion. In the same way, to me, where they were trying to, I don't know if they've done it yet. There's like a boycott movement against Israel. Okay. They were trying to call those people terrorists. How can you be a terrorist by just refusing to purchase things? Yeah. Or like refusing to partake in certain things. If you refuse to do something, that doesn't make you a terrorist. You're not hurting anybody.
That's your choice.
You may be hurting a company's pockets.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it's all in that. To me, that's dictatorship.
Yeah. I feel like hopefully some of them come to their senses and understand that this is dictatorship.
That's why they don't have the whole, the full support of all Jewish people.
Yeah.
And, I think the world now is slowly seeing, what's happening, because in the past, you only saw it from corporate media. You needed CNN, you needed BBC, you needed, Al Jazeera and all the large media houses, ABC, NBC, all those, showing you what's really happening. Now with technology and social media,
social media,
you get to see it from the person living in that camp. I mean, people live in camps inside their home, like their homeland. Yeah. So that's gonna become more and more visible, and it's inevitable that opinions will change. With people really seeing what's really happening.
I also feel like, what what is going on in I think it's Somalia. It's not getting enough attention.
Yeah, I mean, Somalia's
no, not Somalia. Sorry, Yemen.
Yemen. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why it's not is because it's basically like U.S. sponsored, groups are
with Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, exactly. Saudi Arabia is a big time ally of the U.S. And they're just in there killing, and it's been almost 10 years. And I think part of it is because they're black. The people getting killed.
And I heard that the reason, that's just, I don't have, I just heard that the reason why Sudan got off the list of, when they have
the Muslim ban.
Yeah, Muslim ban is because, of Saudi Arabia's intervention, with the U.S. But because there was some Sudanese soldiers who went and fought for Saudi Arabia in
Yemen.
In Yemen.
And that's this kind of supplementing of troops has gotten so many dictators off the hook. That's why. So that part, as you mentioned, I'll take it back to our very first original conversation. Uganda does the same. They supplement troops for the U.S. So
Burkina used to.
Yep. And so they get favors. And Yemen should be covered a lot more. Even when people talk about Yemen, by the way, I don't know if you've seen in the U.S. and coverage is different in the U.S. I mean, you've traveled other places. You've seen news from other places. The reporting is so different. Like what you see in the U.S., when you go to other countries, you'll see a more complete picture because they're showing things that are, they don't filter as much as they filter in the U.S. The U.S., a lot of the news media is going to give you the same point of view, same sources, and, kind of the way, I guess, the American,
except that everybody's watching CNN.
Exactly. Wow, everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
But you do get to see other news sources. That's the thing. And seeing those, usually you see a different picture than what we see here. But CNN is big. It's very international. It's everywhere. And it's in every language, wherever you are, whatever language they speak, there's, CNN is there speaking that language.
I remember when Trump got elected and they started this craziness. There was Trevor Noah said this looks like Africa, right? But back then it was funny.
Yeah.
But then when the election recently, when they started cheating on those voters, that was sad. That was like Africa 2.0.
That's been going on for a long time, by the way. Even during Obama's time, that was the case. Even before that, and I think it goes way back to slavery. People used to argue that in order to vote, you should own land. How in the world?
Wow.
How in the hell are you supposed to own land when you're a slave? Even if you're a freed slave.
Yeah, you gotta work
how are you gonna? Yeah, you may never get the opportunities to earn you enough money to buy land.
Yeah,
and that's so the voter suppression, and then of course there was the fact that women couldn't vote, for a long time.
Yeah.
So now it's just like incrementally, there's always a reason. They look for a reason, none of it legitimate, in my opinion, to keep people from voting.
Yeah.
And mass incarceration is a big part of it too. And disenfranchising people.
Yeah.
It's it's a big scheme. Like you said, Africa 2.0, and more like African dictatorships 2.0.
Yeah, because we don't since we don't have those yet. What we do, like the dictators or the presidents, they will say, "Oh, the other leader, or whether it's the opposition or the opponent, they will say, oh, maybe he's not from the same country, or trying to find
they'll find ways to disenfranchise people,
but not towards the people, because we don't have, maybe because we don't have. I mean, I can't say we, because South Africa has white people, like Southern Africa, but
you generally can't tell. Yeah. Everybody looks the same. Yeah. Everybody's black.
So you can't
speak those languages, and everything is hard to know who's what, unless like there's something that makes them look physically different. But you generally in one country, there's nothing that makes the people look physically different.
Yeah.
Do
you think,
other than men and women?
Yeah.
Do
you think things could change with capitalism?
You mean like if capitalism is still in place, can things change?
Yeah, like right now, we hoping to switch things around, all this plight that we have.
I think it's difficult because, money talks, right?
Yeah.
And corporations run the world. Corporations enslaved people. Corporations and religion. That combination was the recipe for enslaving, hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people. And today, they still do the same. You have this China sweatshops, and you have, all of the mining, in various countries, including the Congo, which we talked about a lot the other day. So there is greed, right? And that's why you have these people. By the way, there is a word for it. I think it's Swahili, nyampara. These nyamparas are these puppets.
Okay,
they throw them a bone, and they bite on the bone, and they're happy. And they're happy to provide whatever. So I think capitalism is going to continue to interfere with human rights. I think though. For me, I keep going back to where we are right now with technology, and like nothing can defeat the people.
Yes.
Basically, whether it's capitalism, socialism, whatever system, it cannot defeat the people.
Yeah, cool.
The issue that we've had in the past is people are not informed. People don't know. They don't realize how much power they have.
Yeah.
They don't even know the world outside of their own, little, part of the world. But now, because everybody's becoming so connected and so interconnected, people who think alike, who see things alike, people who are driven to get this change can now connect. And that's what we were talking about a little bit earlier, where, we're connecting with people on the continent. Technology and social media. And I was not a fan of social media. And I don't really use social media for anything personal that much anyway. But I see it as a tool to get people connected. And I think that in the long run, even if they are like corporate ventures that and they may even like, like right now, for example, Facebook is not allowing people to promote their causes and things like that because of this Russia talk about Russia interfering in U.S. elections and all of that. I think there's going to be other alternatives within the social media world that allow people to connect. And as people get more and more connected, I think things are going to change. Like, it's inevitable. You cannot defeat the people. With or without capitalism, I just think capitalism is going to make it a lot harder because you can always bribe, you can always buy people. And there's many levels of buying people. Some people, they're so useless. Obviously, nobody's 100% useless, right? They can serve as bad examples. So some people are bad examples because the only thing they need is being flattered. So they get compliments, they're feeling themselves, and they, they're like, oh yeah, even if they have an opinion, right, today, that is correct. If say like some dictator or some greedy corporation or somebody comes and flatters them, they're like, oh yeah, it's popping over there. And they jump on it and they're gone. Some people, they bribed into it. And, money makes them move. Some people, they get blackmailed into it. Some people are too afraid and are indifferent. Though all of those are like enemies of change. Like either selling out, being indifferent, and all of that is being an enemy of change. And what we got to do is just keep putting it in their face. Because the more it makes them uncomfortable, the more they got to face themselves and either, make a decision. One way or the other. What do I do? How do I, I know it's wrong. They know it's wrong. But they are unwilling to touch it or to criticize it or to do anything to, they're unwilling to leave their position of indifference because if they acknowledge it, then they're compelled to do something. And you know what we got to do is just keep making them uncomfortable. I do think without capitalism, change could come faster, but with capitalism, change will come regardless. It's just going to be difficult.
I definitely think it is difficult because, that's the reason why after any revolution, it's still the same people coming in because, they're right there. And, as soon as you come in, they're like, all right, we can make this for you, not for the people.
Right. People sell, the people are sold. People are sold out. But the people, have you ever heard the saying about Harriet Tubman?
So all that anybody knows about Uganda is the LRA.
But I could have freed a whole lot more. Only if they knew they were slaves.
Most people know as Joseph Kony.
The people gotta know that they're being sold. So we have a job.
Anytime you think about atrocities
big job to do to let the people know that they're being sold. And once the people realize they're being treated as merchandise,
Joseph Kony,
then they will make a choice whether they remain merchandise or resist being a merchandise. You're always going to have some people who are like so weak. Again, nobody's totally useless. They're bad examples, right? They're examples of what not to do. You're going to have those that are so useless. They will serve as the example of those who are willing to be merchandise.
Basically attrition. That's true. Like starving the people. There was massacres by the military also, but there was really they were starving the people. So a lot of people don't know it, and that's why the film is important. A brilliant genocide. It's so smart the way it was done. It is brilliant because you can't tell that it was a genocide because they made it happen. It's not really in the open. There's not you're not going out there in Rwanda where people are being massacred with machetes.
Towards ourselves, we will find a lot of solutions.
Blood being spilled on the street. Even though
I think we gotta be collaborative. I think in the long run,
the major
there's
man, that was I
pursuing
had
change.
no idea, and I was.
But there's also knowing where do we want to go.
Yeah,
because what happens is, like you said before,
so much
there's usually revolutions and a void.
Mm-hmm.
And usually the void is filled by similar people, the same people. Because
the professor,
people with these
the
political ambitions,
it's like a
at
great
times
combination.
they're just like the person they're trying to replace,
Judy River,
and they're willing to sell out.
Helen is also.
I don't think they only have a plan for themselves.
Yeah, right. So. Yeah. Their plan is to sell the people out just like the one before them.
Yeah,
hopefully, because I think
and that's
she probably speaks
that's
French.
bad news.
Yeah, she does.
She
does.
Would be great
for the people.
I think you should. You should.
I feel like it's great that
what is up. What's happening in
most of
like especially in my community because of a lot of our people they like French speaking.
Mm-hmm. The institution that you created, the Great African Lake.
African Great Lakes.
I wish, man, I would love to do it in French, but it would take twice as much time because I have to do my thinking in a different language and translate.
Yeah, a lot of people really, it's one of
the thing that Maurice said last time is, they also provide them with training,
we have
and tools, training and tools. And
so as we spoke about it,
anytime people would tell me like
I feel like only through that
we have to be honest. Kagame has great PR system.
I want to say true revolution.
Absolutely.
But,
the film is called A Brilliant Genocide.
Yeah.
I think I would say Kagame
they have
is brilliant at PR. He spends a lot of money on PR.
Yeah, I think we need a roadmap.
He wants to keep
and then also
that's his biggest
thing
struggle.
is,
if he was the type that was like really good at PR but didn't try to maintain a perfect image,
it's not a sprint.
He'd probably get away with all
this is
these
not a
crimes.
10-second race. It's a marathon running. 20.
It wasn't so
23 miles.
The reason why he's getting away with it right now is because he's still a darling.
That's
of
the
Western countries
that we're running.
And the countries love him. The donor nations love him. The US backs him.
To run the
UK
26 miles, you gotta pace yourself.
Good graces with France.
You gotta prepare. You gotta train. And you gotta,
he loses the support.
Know your pace,
and it's slowly
you gotta
coming.
Finish.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of people approach it as,
day by day.
Just because I'm involved, a lot of people think
calm down, crashing.
As soon as they involve, things should be moving and changing.
Yeah,
in like a week or two or a month.
I always wanted to ask you about
because of external pressure.
Kofi Annan.
Yeah, I think that's good.
I know when
hopefully
when these things were happening.
Even though I don't know if they're going to
you're probably young.
I think it's going to shake things up. Like at least he would understand.
I think he was the
people.
He was at the UN. He was in charge of
peacekeeping.
If I remember correctly.
What did he like? Did he? Because I know the trust with Rose Gully was let go.
Yeah.
So
one of the things that
he was too vocal.
I should have said that I didn't say. I should have said and didn't say in that event because it just escaped me.
Yeah.
And even the day before,
I feel like
when I was on Straight Talk Africa, the show,
someone is in the
Rwanda is a country it does not have rule of law. It has rule by law, which is what dictators do. It's like a perfect,
especially
it's the playbook, the classic playbook.
I'm not sure
they take these laws and
I don't know
much
about I don't know much about
to protect their dictatorship.
But I do know
whatever little thing that you do,
because I read
it comes back to haunt you, and they make it look legal. In the same way that when slavery happened, it was legal to do that because they had laws to allow
not
to do that.
Kofi Annan.
So that's what
for multiple things.
So
not just the peacekeeping decisions that he made in the genocide in Rwanda. Him
according to Rwandan laws, she couldn't run
again
again because she served so much time. She was convicted for
to suppress
when you serve a certain amount of
the UN investigations.
Jail time.
There was a number of UN investigations that were suppressed.
The second lady, that's Victoire,
we're talking about the crimes committed by the RPF, by Kagame.
She might be able to run because
and they were going to prosecute him in UN courts, or at least prosecute his soldiers. They never did that.
Twice.
So the people died.
Two times when
a bunch of Africans were
PR
killed.
has really failed.
And nothing
because,
was done
when he released
to give justice to those people. That's in Rwanda. That's
people
countless people killed by the RPF.
Oh, Kagame is such
Move
a great,
over to the
forgiving
Congo.
person.
He was still the Secretary
he let her out,
General
but
of the UN.
He was quickly.
And then, of course, after him was
were
the
able to
Korean
demonstrate
guy.
that this guy
he's
under external pressure. That's why he did it. So that one flopped. Then he
also didn't do anything. Look at what happened. What's happening in the Congo? You still have the biggest.
The thing they don't get is
biggest killers.
You should have never arrested these two ladies to begin with. You should have never served any time to begin with. So when he released Diane, they started claiming that the judicial system in Rwanda works.
2 or 3 people
is independent, and obviously that's also
one was
true. But that's what's happening. And I should have mentioned. For sure, that it's ruled by law, not rule of law.
At the event.
I think also what I think was great about
Kofi Annan,
the intervention,
asked him to drop.
Like when you
have an investigation,
he told him like, hey, there's nothing he could do about it. But eventually he got stopped. So that showed that
you make sure people understood that
Kofi Annan didn't have the power to stop that investigation.
Like people committed
the US probably had the power to. But the reason why I feel like he called Kofi
Annan, I think that's important.
He felt comfortable enough to call him.
You have people like
my thing is exactly. He was friends with those sectarians.
That's what
and that's the issue.
You feel comfortable enough to call someone and ask him to drop.
What Kabila's done.
An investigation. Like you're not going to call someone that you know is the person who's like one way.
Yeah, if he was principled. Look at the answer.
All of these,
he said, "I don't have the power to do that." So what would he have done if he had the power?
Because they are extremists.
If that's the answer he gave,
they will do anything.
Why not say, "Hey, look, let the investigation happen, and whatever comes out, we want to get to, I want to see the bottom of it. I want to see what's, the right thing versus the wrong thing." But he said, I don't have the power to do that.
Happen to be innocent bystanders.
Maybe if he had the power, he would have stopped
in the crossfire.
And the thing is, too, even if he didn't have power to do things, I think it's a responsibility to the people.
I mean, the day of the event,
to speak up and basically say, look, this is wrong. Even if you have no power to do anything about it, at least be vocal about it.
No, I'm not sure.
And that's my issue with.
I've seen so many views.
But she was
that
given details how
after he was in where he tried
involved in
he answered some of the
Sudan and
questions,
all the neighboring countries.
I feel like it's someone who's
and that's how they usually use like those
about things.
Puppets,
he's not trying to
even
mess up his.
In Burkina,
he's very image conscious. He's very
he's
protective of his job,
he's not trying to mess things up. Even the Westerns, and he's not trying to.
Like it's just
like a probably
these people are not only a danger to
some countries,
their own people.
So
it's a danger
sometimes
to work.
if almost
what's
feel like
what's funny is I feel like the West
people
you
either want to defend us or you don't want to
these people.
defend us.
They only
you can't. If you want to defend us, there's no way you're gonna have to
against them because
bump
at some point they feel like.
That's why I say we've got a big
to
job ahead of us to educate the people. We cannot be just impressed by the simple fact that this guy became the Secretary General of the UN. We should not be impressed by anybody's position.
Yeah, it's true that
it should be about what they do.
Yeah, it's true that it was the first West,
African.
Exactly. Black African.
I think that's a lot of people. They have,
being smart is not enough for a person to be admired.
And that's what you have.
Being in a high position
70
should not be enough
the only
for
neighboring
anybody
country
to be admired
hasn't really
or respected.
ventured
We should
Tanzania.
always scrutinize
Tanzania is a very
what
powerful
is
country.
the person actually doing.
Can you look
And
at
if they're not doing the right
rest
thing,
of the countries
it doesn't matter
around
what position
Uganda.
they're in, it doesn't
Uganda's
matter how
landlocked.
smart they are,
It
it doesn't matter how well they speak, it doesn't matter how they pretend to care, for the people. It should always be about what their actions are. And that's what we gotta, educate the people, about, because appearances are big. People are so impressed with appearance,
Even
and
today,
that's
the
enough
atrocities
for them
that
to
were
be
taking
satisfied.
place
Yeah, that's true.
in
And to me,
Sudan.
it's about what you do,
involved.
not about how you look
His
and
troops
what
are
you,
involved.
what position you occupy.
And people are running away from
Claude,
South
thank you so
Sudan to
much,
Uganda.
for
He's
coming
acting
today
like,
for the
he's taking care of refugees.
second
I mean,
section of the
and then there
podcast.
are
I
people
really
who say,
appreciate
well,
it.
that's so
I
great.
think when we
They're
started,
receiving
I
refugees
thought it
and
was
everything.
recording.
You don't really have a choice. When refugees
it
run,
wasn't, so
they
I
just
had
go to
make it
whatever,
interesting again. So,
wherever the gun,
thank you so
gunshots,
much.
are
This
they no longer can hear.
Whenever
those,
we
that's where they
do
go.
these, it's really,
You shoot, but where
it
we're sitting right
informs
now,
people,
if somebody shoots into this
and it
house,
opens people's
we run.
mind on a
And
lot of issues.
it's not gonna matter what direction. We're just gonna run.
They're not going to get it from the news.
Yep.
So,
So then he supported
give it to them.
basically the RP of Kagame and
So
the other soldiers, especially the leaders.
You have it documented for the
of
people.
rebellion.
Thank you for having me again. Hopefully,
military.
soon we'll do another one.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll keep doing this and
make sure
keep growing the audience.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
He came as a Ugandan citizen. He was part of the Ugandan military. He was a chief intelligence of the Ugandan military. And then he came here, then converted, went into, he became the rebel.